Good evening. My name is Consuelo Dozier, and my presentation is about examining the gap in financial aid for minorities students in higher education during pre and post COVID-19. A brief overview of my presentation is dealing with COVID-19 and how it impacts the students in the institution and a rapid response that it made towards the students, identifying trends and raises areas of concerns for minorities, not only Blacks, but Hispanics, Native Americans, and international students. Students face struggles during the pandemic. Most of them had to learn how to deal in a virtual environment. Some of them had to learn how to deal with their children and find people to watch their kids, such as their parent. They didn't have the funding. And being in class virtual, they didn't have the privacy. Some of them had financial hardship where funding was not provided to them to help with their living expenses. So some of them could not attend school. Expectations of the faculty that affected the students. A lot of the faculties had to get used to our online environment because they was used to traditional classrooms. Some of them had trouble with visual feedback from students because the faculty was used to an environment where they talk to the students. They give live lectures and they talk and they get lesson plans or have open discussions in the classroom. Some of them even was not computer savvy. So a lot of faculty had high expectations, but they found out that they could not because they had to change their environment, not only the students, but the faculty. The decline over 2 years span between 2021 through 21-22, over 106, no, 163,100 students declined by 16.4%. That was whites only. Blacks declined by 54,800, 16.4%. And the Native Americans, they declined by 3,100, which 15.6%. That's a great decrease over a 2 year span. In 2021, the impact that it has on the most competitive schools, the students had to try to attend more virtual schools that was more competitive, but at that time they could not. As you see, it had a great decline in 2019 and 2020 during the pandemic for the competitive schools. It was a great decline in students. All declined, but the most competitive, they had a little increase, but not much. It was a very low volume of students attending higher education during the pandemic, the start of it. In 21-22, it increased. Most of, if you see the green line, the most competitive the most competitive schools, they increased a great deal than what it was in 1920. They increased about 1,719 students in their environment institutions. There more students started coming back, but they were still in their virtual environment. Most transferred during the pandemic. A higher education experienced a total of the 2 year loss of 296,000 or 13.5% transfer from different institutions. I work at an institution and we had a great decline in students. And that's because most of them could not do virtual and some had to go back home out of state. 2 year institutions reached a dramatic decline in students that reached double digits. My summary: the COVID-19 students has propelled students and faculty into a new realm of remote distance learning through virtual classrooms. Many had to get used to it, and over the time frame, many had got used to going to school in the class. The pandemic had different impacts on transferring enrollments for institutions and serving specific populations of students. During the post-evolve and COVID-19 era, the future as different interactive for communicating during the current crisis have proven useful. As students had got used to the virtual world, they start wanting that more in less traditional classrooms. So after COVID had become a balance, these students didn't want to come back to the regular classroom. They wanted to stay virtual because it became more convenient for most. As we go on, the traditional classrooms had started, but it's still a hard way for minorities. And the minorities is still struggling because of the COVID-19. Some of them had very hardships in health issues, financial issues, because we did not have jobs that was open. Some counted on their jobs and some businesses closed. So our minorities was the ones that struggled the most. And as time goes, we are slowly coming up and getting back to where we was before the pandemic. We hope that soon we'll be able to attend higher education and reach our educational endeavors by taking our time and taking it day by day. Thank you for listening to my presentation.